Winter pressed across the United Kingdom as cold air from the north settled over England, Scotland, and Wales. Rain shifted into sleet in many districts. On higher ground, real snow began to build. Accumulations reached between 1 and 5 centimeters at elevations above 200 to 300 meters. The shift marked the first significant wintry episode of the season. The national forecaster issued widespread yellow alerts. The warnings covered Scotland, Wales, northern England, and parts of the Midlands. The message centered on ice-light snow and rapid drops in temperature. Winter had arrived early and without hesitation. Through the afternoon and into the night, temperatures slipped below zero across broad areas. Roads that had carried only wet patches hours earlier turned rigid under a smooth layer of ice. Pavements froze in uneven patterns. Cycleways developed a thin sheen that blended with the dark surface and hid the danger beneath. Across hilly corridors, slush built quickly. Snow pressed into wheel tracks and hardened into slippery ruts. Some rural lanes received treatment only after conditions overtook them. Graders and gritters worked along main routes first. Smaller roads waited until crews could reach them. Commuters in cities faced a different set of risks. Pavements near major streets held more salt, but back streets remained untreated. Footpaths darkened under frost. Corners and slopes became traps where thaw and refreeze cycles shaped the ice into unpredictable surfaces. Pedestrians adapted by taking slower steps. Cyclists shifted toward primary roads where treatment was more likely. The cold reminded everyone that early winter storms rarely look severe, yet often carry the greatest risk. In the transportation network, operators cautioned travelers from the outset. Rail services urged checks before departure. Delays appeared in exposed or elevated stretches. Buses struggled along sloping approaches into rural towns. Drivers reduced speed across bridges as frost reached both sides of the deck. At airports, ground crews monitored taxiways and approach paths for ice formation. Runways, still damp from earlier rain, cooled rapidly. Even light surface frost threatened to disrupt operations if not managed hour by hour. Conditions grew most severe in the elevated north. In the highlands, cold air lingered longer and pressed harder. Overnight lows in exposed uplands dropped toward -5 to -7 degrees Celsius. The sudden temperature shift followed days of comparatively mild weather. The ground remained saturated. Once the freeze set in water within the upper soil crust stiffened into ice and sealed the surface. The result created patches of hard frost that offered little traction for vehicles or boots. Gusty northerly winds carried light snow showers across open ridges. In those districts, small drifts formed behind walls and along fence lines. They remained shallow but signaled that persistence could bring deeper deposits if showers continued. Communities reacted with caution. Families in exposed districts adjusted morning routines. Parents monitored conditions around school entrances where untreated paths remained icy. Some schools considered later start times to allow time for staff to clear walkways. Commuters began their trips earlier. Many reported slow progress even on main roads. The early freeze produced more minor falls and slips within the first hours of daylight than during heavier snow events later in winter. The contrast reminded residents that modest snowfall could still bring widespread disruption. Authorities stepped up their response. Highway crews spread grit across key corridors. Local councils monitored priority routes through the night. Emergency services advised drivers to carry warm clothing, a blanket, and basic supplies. Standard winter guidance resurfaced inflate tires properly. Keep an ice scraper in the vehicle and allow extra minutes for travel. Forecasters issued regular updates. Their communications emphasized the potential for sudden ice formation, especially before sunrise. They also warned against interpreting light snow as a sign of low risk. Ice, they noted, remained the central hazard. In city centers, workers cleared pedestrian zones. Gridding teams focused on transport hubs, hospital entrances, and steep streets. Retail areas, though busy, darkened quickly after sunset as temperatures dropped again. Shoppers navigated cautiously. Local councils deployed additional salt to stairs and walkways leading to transit stations. Despite these efforts, reports of slips increased during peak commuting hours. Across rural districts, the freeze gripped farmland. Tracks used by agricultural vehicles stiffened under sheets of frost. Livestock areas near open fields became slippery. Water troughs iced over. Farmers adjusted movements to avoid early morning hazards. Some rescheduled deliveries. Others relied on secondary paths that held more sun exposure during the day. As the night progressed, the pattern repeated. Temperatures dipped. Surfaces hardened. Meltwater from the previous afternoon froze again. The thin layer formed what drivers call black ice. It blended with the asphalt and offered almost no visual clue. Roads that seemed safe became unpredictable. Vehicles braked gently but slid farther than expected. Many routes remained passable, but the margin for error narrowed. The following dawn held the greatest risk. Frost deepened in shaded valleys. Bridges cooled faster than nearby ground. Pavements resembled dark metal. People who assumed conditions had improved faced the same danger as the evening before. Footpaths not treated overnight remained slick. Commuters who walked to bus stops found themselves adjusting steps with every meter. Through the morning hours, forecasters noted a gradual rise in temperature. The slight warming helped settled snow soften and begin to melt. It also raised a new concern. Meltwater pooled along curbs and low spots. As the next cold pulse moved in overnight, those puddles risked turning back into ice. A cycle of thaw and refreeze formed, extending the hazard window and testing the capacity of road crews. The transportation network noted the same concern. Rail lines in elevated sectors watched for ice accumulation on overhead equipment. Road authorities kept plows and gritters on standby. Airport teams prepared for potential de-icing operations if temperatures dipped again. Every sector faced the dual challenge of lingering snow and returning frost. Meanwhile, households continued adjusting. Many left earlier for work. Some stayed home until surfaces improved. Parents monitored updates from schools. Rural families noted that the combination of shadowed roads and cold air kept their lanes frozen longer than those in urban areas. Pedestrians opted for main pavements even if the walk took more time. Local councils communicated throughout the day. Their updates repeated key advice. Treat all darkened surfaces with caution. Move slower than usual, whether walking or driving. Watch for changes around dawn and dusk. Carry basic winter kits in vehicles. Check transport schedules before traveling. Listen for updated forecasts. By late afternoon, the first signs of improvement appeared. Snow on lower elevations thinned. Salt worked more effectively as temperatures hovered closer to zero. Still, the danger persisted. Water from melted snow collected on road edges. In many cases, it ran across cycleways and pavements. As evening approached, these wet surfaces began cooling again. The transition back to frost moved quickly. Forecasters emphasized that the hazard did not vanish simply because snowfall remained modest. Ice slush and the risk of sudden refreeze continued to dominate. They pointed toward the overnight period as the most critical. With lighter winds and clearer skies, radiational cooling would increase. Surfaces would lose heat and refreeze more sharply. Across the United Kingdom, the message grew consistent. Winter had begun. The first storms of the season rarely look dramatic. Their snow totals often stay low, yet their impact reaches wide. Slippery roads disrupt commutes. Frozen pavements challenge pedestrians. Small drifts in upland districts limit visibility. The shift from autumn warmth to winter cold creates surfaces unprepared for rapid frost. Authorities urge residents to respect the conditions. They advised caution on untreated paths. They encouraged communities to check on vulnerable neighbors. They reminded drivers that the safest speed remains slower than normal. They pointed out that black ice hides in plain sight. As long as temperatures hovered near or below zero, the threat remained active. The storm marked only the first stage of the season. More systems would follow. Some would bring heavier snow, others would carry freezing rain or sharp frost. The early arrival served as a warning. Preparation mattered. Awareness mattered. Caution mattered. In the end, the country faced a familiar but potent challenge. A modest snow event unfolded into a broad winter hazard. Roads, rails, pavements, and rural paths all felt the strain. The shift from rain to sleet to snow signaled the turning point. Winter had taken hold. And across the United Kingdom, residents adjusted to the season that had only just begun.